Everyone always assumes it's going to be some grand, dramatic moment. Ships descending from the heavens, laser beams scorching cities, diplomatic meetings in marble halls. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes first contact happens over a cup of coffee in a greasy diner on Interstate 40, and you don't even realize it until 1,000 years later. Commander Thale 6, and I have been monitoring this little blue marble for longer than most species have had written language. Right now, I'm sitting in my cloaked observation vessel, watching the most bizarre spectacle in galactic history unfold below me. The humans, oh, the precious, stubborn, absolutely impossible humans. They have no idea what they have been living alongside for the past millennium. Let me back up a bit. 1,000 years ago, my people, the Keltharan Collective, made what we thought was a simple mistake. Our deep space colony ship, the Eternal Wanderer, suffered a catastrophic engine failure near this backwater system. We had two choices: drift into the void and die, or make an emergency landing on the third planet. The one with all the water and those strange bipedal creatures who hadn't even figured out gunpowder. Why, so we landed. Not with fanfare, not with conquest. We crash-landed in what you humans now call the North American continent, buried our ship deep underground, and activated our adaptive camouflage protocols. Standard procedure for a stranded expedition: blend in, survive, wait for rescue. The thing is, rescue never came. For a century, we maintained strict non-interference protocols. We watched your medieval ancestors stumble around with their crude tools and superstitions, confident that our rescue fleet would arrive any day. We built our underground cities, perfected our holographic disguises, and waited, and waited, and waited some more. By the time we realized that the collective had written us off as lost, something extraordinary had happened. We had adapted, not just our technology, but our entire perspective. You see, living among humans for generations does something to you. It changes you in ways that High Command would probably consider treasonous. Take my great-grandfather, Thale 1. He was part of the original crash survivors. Strict military protocol, by-the-book Keltharan officer. But after 50 years of watching human children play in the forests above our hidden city, something shifted in him. He started asking questions that no good Keltharan should ask. Questions like, what if we are not just hiding from them? What if we are hiding from ourselves? Now, fast forward to today. I'm watching the human city of Denver through my observation screen, and I have to laugh. See that construction site where they are building their new transit center? They're digging right next to Keltharan Settlement Gamma 7. The humans are literally working 20 feet away from a fully functional alien city that houses 15,000 of my people, and they have absolutely no clue. But here's where it gets interesting. My nephew, Cade, works construction. Real construction. Not some elaborate spy operation. Actual human construction. He gets up at 5 in the morning, drinks something called Red Bull that would probably kill most carbon-based life forms, and operates heavy machinery alongside humans who call him Big K and invite him to their barbecues. He's been doing this for 30 years. The human foreman, a guy named Jake Morrison, actually asked Cade to be his daughter's godfather last month. My nephew, a member of an advanced spacefaring civilization, spent last weekend teaching a 7-year-old human girl how to ride a bicycle. Let that sink in for a moment. But Cade isn't unique. Oh no, he's just one of thousands. We have Keltharan doctors working in human hospitals, saving human lives with techniques that are centuries ahead of human medical science. But they do it so subtly that the humans think they're just really, really good at their jobs. We have teachers in human schools, engineers in human companies, even a few politicians in human governments. Not as some grand conspiracy to control your species. Mind you, they are there because they care. Because after 1,000 years, the line between us and them has become complicated. Take Dr. Lisa Hendricks. She's been the head of pediatric surgery at Denver Children's Hospital for 12 years. The humans think she's a miracle worker because she's never lost a patient. What they don't know is that Lisa isn't human. She's Keltharan. Her real name is Thale 14, and she's my cousin. She could perform surgery that would make your best doctors weep with envy, but instead, she uses just enough of her advanced knowledge to save lives without raising suspicions. Last month, she operated on a 5-year-old boy named Tommy Chun who had been hit by a drunk driver. The human doctors said he wouldn't survive the night. Lisa worked for 14 straight hours, using micro techniques that won't be discovered by human science for another century. Tommy not only survived, he's expected to make a full recovery. When I asked Lisa why she risked exposure for one human child, she looked at me like I'd asked why water is wet. Because he's 5 years old, fail 6. Because his parents love him. Because someone has to. That's the thing about humans. They get under your skin. Literally, in our case, since our species are surprisingly genetically compatible. Oh, did I forget to mention that part? Yeah. Turns out Keltharan and human DNA plays quite nicely together. We have got 3rd and 4th generation mixed families now. Kids who are half human, half alien, growing up thinking their slightly too good reflexes and enhanced pattern recognition are just family traits that my own daughter, Zara, is dating a human boy named Marcus Thompson. He's a nice kid, plays guitar, wants to be a veterinarian, terrible at mathematics, but great at making Zara laugh. He has no idea that his girlfriend can see in 17 different spectrums of light and has an IQ that would make your greatest geniuses look like toddlers. He just knows that she's beautiful, kind, and always knows exactly what to say when he's having a bad day. Marcus spent Thanksgiving with our family last year. He sat at our dinner table, ate food prepared with alien spices from our home world, made jokes with my father about football, and helped my mother wash dishes. The kid has been dating my daughter for 2 years, visits our home regularly, and he still doesn't know we are not human. Honestly, I'm not sure whether that says more about our camouflage technology or human obliviousness. But here's what really gets me. We are not the only ones. 3 months ago, our long-range sensors detected something that made my blood run cold. We are not alone on this planet. The Vortex Syndicate has a settlement in the Amazon rainforest. The Christec Empire has been operating out of underwater cities in the Pacific for at least 800 years. The hegemony of Zilt has integrated themselves into human society so completely that they are probably running half your corporations by now. Earth isn't just home to humans. It's become a refugee center for half the galaxy. Species fleeing wars, persecution, economic collapse. They all end up here, blending in, making lives, having families. Some are here by accident, like us. Others came intentionally, seeking something they couldn't find anywhere else in the galaxy. And the humans? The humans just keep being human. They go to work, fall in love, have children, create art, argue about politics, invent new ways to make coffee, and somehow manage to make every single species that encounters them wonder what we have been missing all these years. Last week, I watched a human child named Amy Rodriguez share her lunch with what she thought was another human child on the playground. The child was actually a young Vorthack whose parents run a food truck in downtown Denver. The little Vorthack girl had been having trouble adjusting to Earth gravity and human social customs. Amy didn't care about any of that. She just saw someone sitting alone and decided to be kind. That little act of kindness probably did more for intergalactic relations than 1,000 diplomatic summits. But now we have a problem. A big problem. The Galactic Council has finally noticed that Earth has become, well, let's call it an unauthorized multicultural hub. They are sending a research expedition to investigate reports of irregular settlement patterns in this system. In 2 weeks, Council ships are going to arrive, and they're going to expect to find a primitive human civilization and maybe a few scattered monitoring outposts. Instead, they're going to find the most complex integration of species in galactic history. Families with mixed DNA, hybrid children, aliens who think of themselves as more human than whatever they used to be, and humans who have been unknowingly shaped by 1,000 years of subtle alien influence. The Council is going to take one look at this situation and declare it a contamination event. They will want to relocate all non-human species and restore Earth to its natural state, which in Council speak means they will rip apart 1,000 years of shared history, separate families, and probably lobotomize any humans who might have been exposed to advanced concepts. Over my dead body, I've been having meetings with settlement leaders from every species on the planet. We are not just talking about Keltharan anymore. We have got the Vorthack Syndicate The Christek Empire, the hegemony of Zilt, even a few rogue Andromedan traders who decided Earth was more profitable than their home markets. Everyone's got the same story. They came here planning to leave, and they ended up staying because leaving would mean abandoning something precious. The Christek ambassador, a being that looks like a walking geode but sounds like Morgan Freeman, put it best. I came here to study human emotional responses for our psychological warfare division. Instead, I learned how to make pancakes with my neighbor's daughter every Sunday morning. I have no idea how this happened, but I'm not giving it up without a fight. So here we are, dozens of species, hundreds of thousands of individuals, all preparing to defend a planet that most of the galaxy considers a backwater curiosity. We're preparing to go to war with the Galactic Council itself to protect our right to call Earth home. The funny thing is, we could probably evacuate. Most of our technology is still centuries ahead of anything the Council expects to find here. We could disappear into the black, find new worlds, start over. But none of us want to. This isn't just about hiding anymore. This is about family. This is about belonging somewhere. This is about the fact that Jake Morrison still calls my nephew every Sunday to complain about his fantasy football lineup. This is about Dr. Lisa Hendricks having coffee with Tommy Chin's mother every week to make sure he's recovering properly. This is about my daughter Zara teaching Marcus how to play chess and deliberately losing because his smile when he wins is worth more than any strategic advantage. This is about the moment when you realize that alien and human aren't opposite things. They are just different ways of being alive in a universe that's bigger and stranger and more wonderful than anyone ever imagined. The Council ships will be here in 2 weeks. When they arrive, they're going to find something that will either revolutionize galactic civilization or terrify them into trying to destroy it. They're going to find Earth. Not the primitive backwater they expect, but the real Earth. The Earth where species boundaries dissolve slowly over 1,000 years of shared breakfasts and birthday parties and rainy Sunday afternoons. The Earth where us and them became we so gradually that nobody noticed until it was too late to change it back. And if they try to take that away from us, well, they're about to learn something that every species on this planet has discovered over the past millennium. Never underestimate what humans will fight for when they're protecting their family. Even when they don't know their family is an entirely human point 2 weeks later. I'm standing in what used to be Conference Room B at the Denver Convention Center, except now it's been converted into the most unlikely war room in galactic history. The walls are covered with tactical displays showing Council fleet positions. But there's also a coffee station in the corner because, well, humans insisted on it. And honestly, after 16 hours of emergency planning, even my Keltharan metabolism needs caffeine. The room is packed with representatives from every hidden settlement on Earth. The Vorthack delegation brought homemade cookies, which sounds ridiculous until you realize they're stress baking because their entire species processes anxiety through food preparation. The Christek ambassador is literally sparkling with nervous energy, throwing rainbow reflections across the ceiling every time she moves. And in the middle of it all, completely oblivious to the fact that he's sitting in a room full of aliens, is Marcus Thompson. Yeah, that Marcus. My daughter's boyfriend. The veterinary student who thinks this is some kind of elaborate climate change summit. So let me get this straight. Marcus is saying, pointing at our tactical display with a half-eaten donut. These council people want to relocate entire communities because they think our environmental integration programs are too advanced for natural development patterns. Dr. Lisa Hendricks, still maintaining her human disguise, nods seriously. That's one way to put it, Marcus. Well, that's just stupid. He continues, completely missing the fact that 3 separate species just held their breath at his casual dismissal of galactic authority. I mean, if people want to live here and they're contributing to society, who cares where they came from originally? My girlfriend's family moved here from, He pauses, looking embarrassed. Actually, Zura, where did your family immigrate from again? My daughter, bless her hybrid heart, doesn't even blink. The Northern Territories. Very remote. You probably haven't heard of it. Right, the Northern Territories. Point is, they're Americans now. We don't kick people out just because they came from somewhere else. And there it is, the thing that's been staring us in the face for 1,000 years. To Marcus, we are not aliens. We are immigrants. We are his girlfriend's weird but lovable family who make excellent pancakes and always remember his birthday. The idea that we might be anything other than human literally doesn't occur to him, because in his world, being human isn't about what species you were born as. It's about what you choose to do with the life you are living. Commander Brick Kowalski of the Human Defense Initiative suddenly stands up. Oh, did I forget to mention that part? Yeah. Turns out some humans figured out something was going on. Not everything, mind you, but enough to know that Earth needed defending from something big and nasty coming from space. Brick's what you'd call a career military man. Fought in 3 different conflicts, lost his left arm to an IED in Syria, and has the kind of tactical mind that makes even Keltharan strategists nervous. He also makes the best barbecue ribs this side of the galaxy, but that's beside the point. All right, people, Brick announces, and I love that he calls us people without knowing that half the room technically isn't. Intel suggests the Council fleet drops out of hyperspace in 18 hours. We have got defensive positions established around major population centers, but let's be honest. If this goes kinetic, we are looking at asymmetric warfare against technology that outclasses ours by centuries. A Vorthack engineer named Talon raises one of his 6 hands. Actually, Commander Kowalski, our manufacturing capabilities might surprise you. My people have been producing what you'd call next-generation defensive systems using human industrial infrastructure. We just haven't mentioned it before. Come again. Talon looks uncomfortable. Well, you know that new Tesla factory outside Austin? The one that's been producing those experimental energy systems? We have been consulting on a project. Unofficially, Brick stares at him for a long moment. Son, are you telling me that aliens have been helping us build better technology? We prefer our-sent immigrants. Lisa interjects smoothly. Fair enough. Recent immigrants have been helping us build better technology. For about 30 years, yes, sir. Brick starts laughing. Not the bitter laugh of a man who's been betrayed, but the deep, appreciative chuckle of someone who's just realized that the odds aren't as bad as he thought. Well, I will be damned. Here I was worried we'd be throwing rocks at starships. That's when my personal communicator starts screaming. Council ships have just dropped out of hyperspace, 6 hours ahead of schedule. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of sterilizing a continent. They're taking up positions around the planet, and their first transmission is already coming through. Attention, inhabitants of Sol 3. This is High Commander Velthax of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. We are conducting a mandatory inspection of this system for illegal settlement activities. All non-indigenous life forms are required to report for immediate relocation processing. Failure to comply will result in forcible extraction and planetary sterilization protocols. The room goes dead silent. Even a Vorthack stops stress baking. Then Marcus stands up. Did that guy just threaten to blow up the Earth? That's the general idea, yes, I reply, dropping my human disguise for the first time in decades. My natural Keltharan features emerge. Silver skin, golden eyes, and those distinctive neural ridges that mark me as a deep space navigator. Marcus looks at me for exactly 3 seconds. Then he looks at my daughter, then back at me. Then he shrugs. Huh. So that's why Zara's always so good at those impossible math problems. Alien girlfriend. Cool. You are not scared? Zara asks, her own disguise flickering uncertainly. Scared? Babe, I once watched you calculate a 17-variable equation in your head while we were ordering pizza. I figured you were either an alien or some kind of mathematical genius. Either way, you are still the girl who cries during dog food commercials and makes those little snorting sounds when you laugh too hard. And that, right there, is why the Council is going to lose this fight, because they're expecting to find a primitive species and some scattered monitoring stations. Instead, they are about to encounter something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy, a planetary civilization that defines itself not by species or origin, but by choice and belonging. The next 6 hours are controlled chaos. Every hidden settlement on Earth drops their camouflage protocols. Suddenly, human cities are sprouting defensive installations that look like they were designed by gods and engineers working overtime. Anti-orbital plasma cannons emerge from shopping malls. Shield generators the size of city blocks rise from subway stations. The Christek underwater cities surface in major harbors, revealing themselves as mobile fortress ships that have been protecting Earth's coastlines for 8 centuries. But the real surprise comes from the humans themselves. See, here's what the Council didn't account for. After 1,000 years of subtle alien influence, human technology isn't quite as primitive as advertised. Those experimental energy systems Talon mentioned, they are actually human-designed adaptations of alien technology, created by engineers who learned advanced principles from their alien coworkers without realizing where the knowledge came from. That new quantum processing facility in Silicon Valley, built by a team that included 3 Andromedan refugees who'd been working as software consultants for the past 2 decades. The breakthrough fusion reactor in Colorado, designed by a partnership between human physicists and Keltharan scientists who met at a Star Trek convention and bonded over their shared love of terrible science fiction. When a Council fleet opens fire on what they assume is a defenseless planet, they are met by coordinated defensive fire from weapon systems that shouldn't exist yet, operated by mixed crews of humans and aliens who have been training together for generations without anyone calling it training. High Commander Velthax's second transmission is considerably less confident than his first. What is this? These are not primitive defensive systems. This technology is... How is this possible? That's when Brick Kowalski gets on the comm. This is Colonel Brick Kowalski, commanding officer of Earth Defense Force. You've got about 30 seconds to explain why you're shooting at my planet before I start shooting back with weapons that are going to really hurt your feelings. Colonel Kowalski, our records indicate that Sol 3 is inhabited by a pre-spaceflight species. You cannot possibly have the technology to threaten Council vessels. Records can be wrong, son, especially when they are 1,000 years out of date. What follows is the shortest war in galactic history. Council fleet, designed to intimidate primitive civilizations, finds itself facing coordinated resistance from a dozen species using hybrid technology that combines the best innovations from across the galaxy. Human tactical flexibility meets Keltharan precision engineering. Vorthack defensive expertise combines with Christek energy manipulation. Andromedan computational power enhances human intuitive problem solving. The battle lasts exactly 47 minutes. When it's over, 8 Council dreadnoughts are disabled and drifting, 3 more are retreating at maximum velocity, and High Commander Velthax is requesting permission to surrender. Permission granted, Brick responds. But you're coming down here to talk face-to-face. And I'm warning you, we have got some questions about this our location business that I think you're going to want to answer real carefully. 2 hours later, High Commander Velthax is sitting in the same Denver Convention Center conference room, looking like a man who's just discovered that everything he thought he knew about the universe was wrong. He's a Centaurian, tall and elegant with blue-gray skin and those characteristic head tentacles that twitch when he's nervous. Right now, they are twitching like crazy. Across from him sits the most unlikely diplomatic team in galactic history. Brick Kowalski, Dr. Lisa Hendricks, myself, the Christek ambassador, 2 Vorthack engineers, an Andromedan trader, and Marcus Thompson, who insisted on being included because, and I quote, "If my girlfriend's family is involved in alien politics, then I'm involved in alien politics." I don't understand, Velthax keeps saying. The integration levels we are observing are impossible. Species don't just blend like this. There are biological incompatibilities, cultural barriers, evolutionary imperatives that prevent this kind of mixing. Yeah, well, Marcus says offering the Council commander a cup of coffee. Humans are pretty good at ignoring things that are supposed to be impossible. It's kind of our thing. Dr. Lisa leans forward. Commander, what you are seeing isn't integration. It's evolution. Not biological evolution, social evolution, cultural evolution. We didn't set out to create some kind of multi-species civilization. It just happened. One friendship at a time, one shared meal at a time. one family at a time. But the contamination protocols, contamination. I interrupt. Commander, look around this room. Look at what we have built together. Is this contamination? Or is this what happens when species stop seeing each other as threats and start seeing each other as neighbors? Velthax's head tentacles stop twitching. He looks around the room, really looks for the first time. He sees Brick comparing tactical notes with a Vorthack engineer. He sees the Christek ambassador teaching Marcus how to read energy signatures on our displays. He sees my daughter helping Dr. Lisa prepare medical supplies for the wounded council prisoners. This is not possible, he whispers. The Galactic Council has maintained species separation for 30,000 years. It's the foundation of galactic stability. Maybe, Brick says quietly, it's time for a new foundation. And that's how the war ended. Not with conquest or surrender, but with an invitation. An invitation to see what happens when you stop building walls and start building bridges. When you stop asking where someone came from and start caring about where they are going. The Council fleet left 3 days later, but Velthax stayed behind. He's currently working as a cultural liaison, try to figure out how to explain Earth to a Galactic Council that spent 30 millennia believing that species mixing leads to chaos and destruction. Instead, he found a world where chaos and cooperation had somehow learned to dance together. Marcus proposed to my daughter last week. The ring belonged to his grandmother, and he asked my permission first, which I thought was sweet. When Zara said yes, he hooped so loud that half the settlement heard him. Then he immediately started planning a wedding that would accommodate both human and Keltharan traditions, because in his mind, that's just what you do when you love someone. Earth is still Earth. Humans are still human, but we are all something more now, something that doesn't have a name in any galactic language. We are proof that the universe is bigger and stranger and more wonderful than anyone ever imagined. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, it gets so much better. 6 months after what historians are already calling the Battle of Denver, I'm sitting in my new office at the United Species Cultural Exchange Center. Yeah, that's a real thing now. Turns out, when you prove that interspecies cooperation actually works, everyone wants to know how you did. IT at MY assistant, Janet Park, brings me my morning briefing along with something called a pumpkin spice latte, which sounds horrifying but tastes like liquid autumn. Janet's human, by the way, and she's probably the most efficient being I have ever worked with. She also has absolutely no idea that her boss is an alien, because even after everything that's happened, we have still got Keltharan who prefer to maintain their human disguises in professional settings. Commander Thale 6, she says, setting down the briefing pad, we have got 3 new applications for settlement approval today. A group of Proximan refugees whose homeworld was destroyed in the Outer Rim conflicts. A Zeltharian research team that wants to study human agricultural techniques. And, this is interesting, a council diplomatic mission requesting permission to establish a permanent embassy. I nearly choke on my latte. The council wants an embassy? Here, apparently. High Commander Velthax's reports have caused quite a stir in galactic political circles. They're calling it the Earth phenomenon, and half the galaxy wants to see it for themselves. That's when my personal communicator chirps with an incoming message from Brick Kowalski. The text makes me laugh out loud. Thale, you need to see this. CNN is interviewing a Vorthack baker about her fusion cuisine restaurant. She's explaining molecular gastronomy to Anderson Cooper like it's no big deal. Turn on Channel 7. I flip on the wall display. And sure enough, there's Melody Kickstow, owner of Cosmic Comfort Foods, demonstrating how she uses low-level gravity manipulation to create the perfect souffle. Anderson Cooper is nodding along like this is completely normal, occasionally asking questions about temperature control and ingredient ratios. The secret, Melody is saying in her perfectly practiced human accent, is understanding that baking is really just applied chemistry with a dash of physics. My grandmother always said that good food requires precise molecular balance, whether you're cooking for humans or anyone really. Anderson doesn't even blink at the implication. And these techniques, they're traditional in your family. Oh yes, passed down through generations. Though I have to admit, working with earth ingredients has taught me so much about flavor complexity. Human taste preferences are surprisingly sophisticated. This is our new normal. Alien chefs on morning television, explaining their techniques like they're sharing family recipes, which I suppose they are. The really amazing part is how quickly humanity adapted to the revelation. Sure, there was initial shock when every major news network simultaneously broadcast the story of Earth's hidden populations. There were protests, emergency congressional sessions, and about 48 hours of complete chaos. Then something beautiful happened. People started connecting dots they'd never connected before. Dr. Patricia Williams from Johns Hopkins realized that her research partner, Dr. Alex Winters, whose breakthrough work in regenerative medicine had saved countless lives, must be one of the newcomers. Instead of feeling betrayed, she felt honored to have worked alongside someone so dedicated to helping humanity. Tech entrepreneur David Kim discovered that his brilliant software architect, Nova Bright, was actually a Christech engineer who'd been subtly guiding human-computer development for 20 years. His response? He gave her a promotion and asked if she had any other insights that might help them solve climate change. Restaurant owner Giuseppe Torino found out that his sous chef, who'd been helping him perfect his grandmother's pasta recipe for 15 years, was actually a Vort-hack culinary specialist. Giuseppe's reaction was to ask for tips on expanding his menu to accommodate more diverse dietary needs. The pattern repeated itself across the globe. Humans discovered that their friends, colleagues, neighbors, and loved ones were more diverse than they'd imagined. And instead of pushing them away, they pulled them closer. My daughter Zara and Marcus had their wedding 3 months ago. It was the most beautiful disaster in the history of interspecies relations. We tried to blend human and Keltharan traditions, which worked great until Marcus's drunk uncle started a conga line during our sacred bonding ceremony. By the end of the night, we had humans doing traditional Keltharan ceremonial dances while Keltharan elders were attempting something called the electric slide. The wedding photos are legendary. There's one of Marcus's grandmother teaching my father how to use a smartphone. Another shows Zara's human bridesmaids helping my sister figure out how to walk in high heels. And my personal favorite, Marcus and Zara feeding each other cake while 3 different species of wedding guests cheer in the background. But it's the smaller moments that really matter. Last week, I watched Marcus help my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, carry her groceries upstairs. Mrs. Patterson is 87 years old and human. She has no idea that Marcus is married to an alien, or that the nice young man helping her is essentially the son-in-law of a deep space military commander. She just knows that he's kind, respectful, and always offers to help when her arthritis is acting up. That's humanity for you. They judge you by what you do, not what you are. The Galactic Council is still trying to figure out how to categorize us. They have sent 17 different diplomatic missions to study the Earth integration model. They want to understand how we achieved stable multi-species cooperation without central authority, genetic modification, or cultural suppression. The answer keeps confusing them because it's so simple. We didn't try to integrate. We just started caring about each other. Take the Hernandez family in Phoenix. Maria Hernandez thought her son's best friend, Kevin Shun, was just really good at helping with math homework. Turns out Kevin's parents are both Andromedan refugees who have been working as accountants for the past 15 years. When this came out, Maria's response was to invite Kevin's parents over for dinner so she could thank them for raising such a wonderful boy. Now the Hernandez and Shun families have dinner together every Sunday. Kevin calls Maria Abuela, and she's teaching his parents how to make proper tamales while they help her understand advanced tax software. Or consider the story of Fire Chief Robert Jackson in Portland. His best paramedic, Alex Rivers, had an uncanny ability to diagnose injuries that should have been impossible to identify without advanced medical equipment. Robert always figured Alex was just exceptionally experienced. When he learned that Alex was actually a Keltharan medic with knowledge of techniques centuries ahead of human medicine, Robert's first question was, "Can you teach the rest of my team those diagnostic methods? We could save so many more lives." Alex now runs training seminars for emergency responders across the Pacific Northwest. Human paramedics are learning alien medical techniques, and they're saving lives every day with knowledge that technically shouldn't exist on Earth for another 200 years. But here's what really gets me about humans. They don't just accept us. They celebrate us. Last month, the city of San Francisco declared the first annual Heritage Diversity Festival, celebrating all the cultures that call Earth home. Not just human cultures, all cultures. There were food trucks serving Vorthack delicacies alongside Mexican tacos. Christech artists displayed their light sculptures next to human painters. Andromeda musicians performed fusion concerts with human jazz bands. The festival lasted 3 days, attracted 2 million visitors, and generated enough goodwill to power a small star. Politicians from 12 countries attended, along with diplomats from 47 different species. By the end of the weekend, everyone was calling it the greatest cultural exchange event in galactic history. Marcus, who somehow got himself appointed as the festival's official interspecies relations coordinator despite having no formal training in diplomacy, summed it up perfectly in his closing speech. This isn't about humans learning to live with aliens or aliens learning to live with humans. This is about all of us learning to live with each other. And honestly, we are pretty good at it. The crowd, a mix of humans and aliens from across the galaxy, gave him a standing ovation that lasted 7 minutes. That's when I realized something that's going to change everything. The Council's been thinking about this all wrong. They see Earth as an anomaly, something that needs to be studied, understood, and potentially replicated under controlled conditions. But Earth isn't an anomaly. Earth is evolution. Social evolution, cultural evolution, the next step in how intelligent species relate to each other. We are not just proof that cooperation works. We are a demonstration of what the galaxy could become if everyone stopped being afraid of differences and started being curious about them. The really beautiful part is that it's spreading. Other worlds are asking for Earth advisors to help them integrate their own refugee populations. The Centauri Alliance wants to establish an exchange program with our universities. The Rigel Confederacy is adopting Earth-style mixed community planning for their new colonies. And it all started because 1,000 years ago, my ancestors crashed on a backwater planet and decided to make the best of a bad situation. High Commander Velthax stopped by my office yesterday. He's been living on Earth for 6 months now. And he's different, more relaxed. He's learned to appreciate coffee, developed an inexplicable fondness for human television shows, and started volunteering at a local animal shelter because, in his words, Earth creatures are surprisingly therapeutic. Commander Thale 6, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk with the easy familiarity of someone who's learned to be comfortable in their own skin. I've been thinking about something. The Council keeps asking me to explain how Earth achieved stable integration. They want protocols, procedures, systematic approaches they can implement elsewhere. And I don't think they understand that there weren't any protocols. There was no systematic approach. There was just time and patience, and people being willing to see past surface differences to find common ground. He paused, looking out my window at the city of Denver, where humans and aliens were going about their daily lives in the most natural, unremarkable way imaginable. They want to know the secret to multi-species cooperation, he continued. But the secret isn't a technique or a technology. The secret is kindness. Simple, everyday kindness repeated billions of times over centuries until it becomes so natural that nobody even thinks about it anymore. I followed his gaze out the window, watching Marcus help an elderly Vorthack gentleman navigate a crosswalk, both of them laughing about something. Neither of them thought twice about the interaction. It was just two neighbors looking out for each other. Velthax, I said, I think you are ready to write your final report to the Council. He smiled, the first truly relaxed expression I'd ever seen on his face. I think you're right, though I'm not sure they are going to like what I have to tell them, which is that Earth didn't solve the problem of multi-species integration. Earth dissolved the problem by making it irrelevant. They turned us and them into we so gradually that nobody noticed it happening until it was already complete. And that's the real story behind Earth's 1,000-year secret. We didn't hide among humans to avoid detection. We hid among humans and discovered that hiding wasn't necessary. We learned that belonging isn't about where you come from. It's about where you choose to call home. The galaxy is watching us now, try to learn our secret. But there is no secret. There's just the radical idea that every being in the universe deserves to be treated with dignity, respect, and basic kindness. Everything else is just details, point one cup of coffee at a time.